Donal McCarthy and I lead Accenture's cloud business in Ireland. You're very welcome to our Cloud First video series. This is a series that explores the transformational potential that cloud can offer businesses as they look to the future. As we know, cloud is the single most powerful tool organizations have to master change in an era of compressed transformation. The rate of cloud adoption in Ireland is really gathering pace. Organizations in every sector are looking at how they can start and what it will mean for their people, their business and their customers. At Accenture, we partner with the world's largest cloud providers, helping organizations to adopt cloud and unlock that hidden potential in their business. Today, I'm talking to AWS, and during our 13-year partnership, we've implemented more than 1,000 joint programs together. I'm delighted to be joined by two people I work with in AWS, Fiona Simpson, Principal Enterprise Lead, and Mark Dunleavy, Head of Commercial in Ireland. You're both very welcome. Great to see you.
Thanks, Donal.
As I said in my introduction, cloud is the most powerful tool organizations have. Mark, maybe to you, what impact are you seeing cloud have on businesses in Ireland today?
Well, Donal, there are two answers to that question. There's the pre-COVID answer, and then there's the post-COVID answer, or the new norm. Pre-COVID here in Ireland, I think there were tentative steps into the cloud. You had some well-known companies, take Stripe for example, who fully embraced the cloud from their inception. But the whole process, say in the general business sector, I'd say was slow and accelerating. COVID rocks up and we saw a fairly dramatic uptake. I mean, we had a company that came into us, literally, they were running a service on premise. We transformed it, we put it over to the cloud, took us 30 minutes to do it, and they were able to run all those services globally after that 30-minute exercise. That's your typical big company, but you know it's different when you get small businesses. So there's a garden centre in the Midlands. Funnily enough, we were all very interested in the garden during lockdown, and their server was been hammered by people saying, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. It kept crashing. And they contacted us saying, look, we're getting this bill for a big new server. We're going to pay this. And we had the opportunity to advise them saying, no, you don't have to do that. You can actually just use the server by the second and the services you want to put on that. Now, when I heard that call, when our teams got that garden centre up and running, I knew that the word cloud is really starting to mean a lot of things to everybody, not just a few people.
I think that's a really interesting point around how the conversation has changed, and especially how it's the characteristics of cloud that we all would have kind of understood years ago, like the pay-as-you-go model, its elasticity, but the fact that now lots of different businesses and lots of organizations are adopting it at pace, especially as we come out of the last 18 months. So Fiona, the focus has really changed then for our clients in what they think about cloud. What are you seeing in the customers you're working with at the moment?
The discussion has really changed in the last 18 months with the pandemic, particularly if you look at the airline industry, whose business overnight completely went to zero as they were in lockdown. And those that are in the cloud have been able to flex their IT resources and their capacity and their demand and keep lean during really tough times. And we have seen that it's really accelerating customers to innovate and look at what they can develop for their clients as they emerge out of the COVID pandemic.
And what makes the cloud so easy to innovate in? Because that word innovation gets used a lot, and we the three of us work a lot together on many of these clients. So I suppose, is it easier now to explain that innovation concept in the context of the power that cloud can bring?
Absolutely. I mean, at AWS, we want our customers to be focused on their core business, not to be building and maintaining data centers. We want their IT resources to be innovating and developing applications that actually drive their business and actually is their core business. We talk in AWS about taking away the undifferentiated heavy lifting. We take away the grunt work and we let you focus on what your core business and really sort of delivering customer transformational projects.
I mean, that whole concept of refocus, I think, is a really interesting one. And Mark, you alluded to that in your example there, where you talked a little bit about how, you know, that organization was shifting from focusing on provisioning the hardware, thinking about the technology, to really looking at how do we deliver the service to our customers. Have you seen that pivot in the conversation really take shape now in Ireland over the last 2 years, where people are starting to understand, if I adopt cloud, I'm focusing on the things that matter?
Yes. And it goes from every type of company. It goes from the smallest startup right through to the bigger companies that we'd all be familiar with. I've been trying to explain to my father-in-law for the last 25 years what I do. IT stuff is as far as it went. And he's a cattle farmer. I live on the farm. And just picture the scene. I come home from work one day and he says, yeah, so how's the new job? And I'm going, yeah, it's grand. I work in the cloud. And he said, Mark, I still don't understand what you do. And I said, okay, let's look out over the field. And I was explaining to him how the cloud enables organizations to rapidly deliver new functionality. And he, of course, I mean, I was still talking work talk there, but I said, okay, we're helping companies set up drones that can fly out over the farm and monitor your cattle. We've got sensors on the cattle, which can tell, okay, if they're under duress, if they're going into labor, when it's time to be milked. We've got sensors in the dairy parlours that will tell when the cow has been fully milked. We've got sensors on the trucks that come to collect the milk, and then we work with companies that help sell that milk, be it directly into the international markets or locally for local consumption. And he goes, okay, Mark, I get all that. And then he goes, okay, so how does the cloud help it? Fair enough question again. I said, okay, all these companies, they couldn't set themselves up overnight if they had to go off and provision, the typical hardware required to set up a business. All the data that they're processing will be very, very expensive to do. So they're, all that data related to the cattle, the fleet management, the milk production, etc. And I said, this is what we do. We help organizations get to market. We help them get to market on a global scale. A lot of these companies I mentioned, they are delivering globally. And it's fantastic to see. And it's accelerating not just the use of cloud, which is obviously important, but it's accelerating business. And I think that's what really matters.
And I think the point you make around the democratization of technology now and how it's really permeating everywhere. Have we ever seen a bigger impact of technology than in the last 18 months? But talking about your example about agriculture, it brings up the point around sustainability, because the three of us talk about that a lot with our clients, around the choices they make, around the technology they make. But from an AWS perspective, it's something that we talk with you a lot as your partner. I mean, and you're doing a lot in the data center space in that regard.
It's something we hear all the time from our customers. You just have to look at the media. It's omnipresent, and quite rightly so. So you've got the Amazon group. We've got a climate pledge where we'll be carbon neutral by 2040. We've also got a pledge that we'll be using wholly renewables by 2030. And we've actually got a stretch goal to see if we can hit that by 2025. So from an Irish context, yes, we have data centres here. And we're looking to power those data centres with wind farms, for example. So we've already announced 3 wind farms, Donegal, Galway and Cork. Similarly, we're either retrofitting or future fitting our data centres with rain harvesting. So we'll actually use our own rain to cool our centres. And actually, I think this is a really cool project. Excess heat from our data centres we're pushing out into the community to heat either municipal buildings or domestic buildings. So we're doing that in Tala, for example. So from an AWS perspective, from an Amazon perspective, it is a huge focus for us. And we're helping our customers as part of their overall sustainability agenda as well.
And I think I was speaking to a customer in the last couple of days, and they want to make choices, sustainable choices, not just going to the cloud, but the technology they use within the cloud. And in your role, I suppose, Fiona, you spend a lot of time with clients, and we work together on many of those clients. How are you seeing the sustainability agenda permeate into the transformation points you made earlier in innovation? Because clearly there are choices that they can make that are more sustainable than others.
Absolutely. I mean, you only need to open a newspaper or look at the media, and sustainability is everybody's focus. And that extends to our customers. And we're helping our customers make real sustainable choices. By launching on a fully optimized platform for capacity, for storage, for compute, you're actually making choices that are green. And I was working with a customer recently, an Irish life science partner, and they basically were looking at launching an application. And they were a little bit hamstrung by some of the internal procedures that they had to go through. And we took a small team within that organization. There was 3 developers, and they worked alongside one of our solutions architects. And within 6 weeks, they were able to deploy, test, and send out an application serving 500,000 patients globally. That's less than half the time of a lead time for a server, which could take up to 12 weeks. And we're allowing our customers to make those really green choices, but also innovate and develop faster for their actual customer base.
I love that idea around being able to experiment really quickly.
Yeah.
Test what works. If it doesn't work, try something different. We've talked about this for so many years, but it's only now we've really had a technology that allows us to do those things. And I think it's a wonderful thing. But clearly in that example, there's talent and skills that were needed, and skills within the business as well, because I think everyone would agree, and it's a super exciting time to be in cloud, because every business wants to see themselves and in some shape or form in the cloud. But I think, what talent do they need then to understand what you just said, to have the right people in the business and have the right executive sponsorship? What's happening in that space?
I mean, absolutely. Every CIO that we're discussing has a cloud-first strategy or has a direction that they're wanting to move to the cloud. But the majority of the IT spend's actually still happening on-premise. And some of the feedback that we get is around cloud skills and cloud talent.
Yeah.
And we work along with Accenture to train our customers and use your valuable IT resources. This is not about replacing your workforce. They know your core business. So upskilling them, working alongside of them. But on feedback from some of our customers, we've actually got a really exciting program that we launched as feedback from our customers, which is the AWS Restart program. And we launched in Dublin in November of last year, and we appealed to underrepresented members of the population, because we believe a diverse workforce is a creative workforce. And we're hearing that from our customers as well.
Yeah.
So we're allowing extending this workforce to our customers and to our partners. And we have found that 100% of the intake from November are actually now launching successful cloud careers. So we're not only helping you with your internal workforce, we're also adding to that if you need external skills to come in to help you on your cloud journey.
That's such a fantastic program and a story to tell, especially as we're in such a constrained skills market. We need to look to people that we have in order to help them get the right skills for cloud. But I guess it puts me into a place where I'm thinking, are we still having conversations, Mark, with the CIO? Or is the conversation percolating much more broader in the organization? Because you and I know, have engaged in clients very early where we're having conversations with the board. Is it being discussed at that level now?
I think it is. I see it a lot more now. For us, the best engagement does start at that board level. They need to understand the benefits of the cloud. They also need to understand what's required to move to the cloud. And that's, for many people, an unknown. So we put a disproportionate amount of time, I would say, working with you guys as well, to make sure we earn that trust. It's one thing to say this cloud is a great thing, but I need to just demystify it for our customers. And we need them to know how they're going to do it. So yes, we would start at the board level. Getting their commitment is vital, and their commitment needs to be visible so that the rest of the organization can see that this is the direction of travel, and that needs to be communicated. And I guess once it's communicated, we're back to the enablement point. So we'd work with Accenture, we'd work with the customers to enable their staff. So then they feel confident what the next steps are. And I guess the last step then typically would be, where to start. Yeah. And that for many is the big question. And just start small. Start small, build up momentum, build up confidence, build up a small center of excellence, build success. And from that, then you can start to look at the rest of the organization. Time and time again, we've seen that work very well. And it doesn't matter about the size of the organization.
I think that point around starting small and perhaps that the starting point for each organization is quite different. I know, Fiona, you and I have had many conversations around a number of clients you're working with that actually did do just that, started small, but now cloud is at the center of their digital transformation. Absolutely.
And working alongside the likes of boohoo.com, we've been able to have those brands come in with their own unique identities and continue to serve their customers, powered by AWS. And we're seeing a seismic shift in the demands of customers and how they want to engage. And as you said, starting small, take a workload. Don't try to eat the whole elephant.
Yeah.
Take a bite and start off with something. And when I talked about that life science partner, that was one small serverless application at a fraction of the cost of on-prem, but yet we were able to go to 500,000 patients globally. And the real momentum was seen there, because it would have taken the customer upwards of 24 months to do that delivery on-premise. Yeah. And our customers are innovating and delivering faster than ever before. And it's so important to some of our enterprise customers coming out of the pandemic.
I'd love to delve into that a little bit deeper, actually, because one of the things that excites me personally about being in cloud is because it has such an impact on the
Yeah.
entire business. So in that example you just talked about, I mean, was it palpable, the excitement around the organization as they started to demonstrate success, doing something very different to what they'd done before? It must have a real long-term impact on the culture within that organization.
Absolutely. And there was real excitement because we brought that team along. This was 3 of their own in-house developers that actually developed this serverless application. We worked alongside our partners, alongside our solutions architects, and we were able to move very, very quickly. And developers love to develop. They love to see the outputs. They love to see the applications. And it's really gained momentum. And that customer is now alongside the partner planning short-term, medium-term and longer-term strategies now to migrate to the cloud because they've seen the real benefits that it can actually deliver.
And you both talked a little bit about those enabling components that need to be set up in the organization at the beginning that perhaps allow them to accelerate. And maybe, Mark, you mentioned the Cloud Centre of Excellence. Why is that so important for an organization to have in place? And what is it going to help them do in the early stages as they start to get into cloud?
I think once people have a Centre of Excellence up and running, they realize very quickly that there are best practices, but these best practices typically aren't that alien to the current best practices that are on, let's call it on-premise. Basic things like provisioning, basic things like security, these are things that we will work with the customer on just to set them up and they're comfortable with it. Security for us, I mean, that's before we get out of bed job, so we call it the day zero job. And from our perspective, I mean, we have customers in the military, we have customers in government, we have customers in banking, etc. And it's the same level of security for everybody. To meet their basic requirements, we have to be the same for everybody else. And that's a global thing. So from our perspective, we just break it down into the constituent parts and give the customer the confidence to go forth. It always comes back to enablement. It always comes back to enablement.
And do you think the same barriers exist that would have been talked about a number of years ago around compliance and security and data and so on? Are you still hearing the same types of conversations, or has it really shifted?
I think anybody listening to this will be smiling up when you say compliance, because compliance probably won't go away.
No.
Security is always a big one, and justifiably so. If I was to wind it back, say 10 years when I was from the outside looking in, security was the main topic. I think it justifiably is a very, very important topic still today, but you know, so many organizations are in the cloud right now, everybody has so much experience, so they understand what is required. So for us, for our customers, it is a very important step. We have over 230 services and features specifically just related to security alone. So we get it, it is important, and for us it's very important that we share that with our customers as well, so they know exactly what's required to make sure they're happy.
And then I suppose it begs the question, as they set themselves up for success and they've got their CCOE up and running and they're thinking about the future. I mean, maybe to you, Fiona, you've told us some wonderful examples of clients that have started and that are at different levels of maturity on their journey. I mean, for those clients, what are they thinking about now as they look to the future, leveraging the power of the AWS cloud?
I mean, absolutely. Working with a global insurance company based here in Ireland, we're looking to AI and ML and how we can use predictive modelling to really have this company innovate on behalf of their customers. And they're having a look at the outcome of the COVID pandemic and how they need to pivot and re-engineer and innovate based on that change and how they can serve those clients and see what the health outcomes are going to be in the coming years. So we're really starting to see people harnessing the power of AI and ML in AWS and look to see how they can really drive their strategy and create new applications and new services to their customer base. It's been quite powerful.
I mean, it's interesting to hear that now AI and ML is kind of a direction of travel that clients are really embracing.
Yes.
And I guess in AWS, you've embedded a lot of that in many of your services to take the complexity out of it for clients. And we work on many of those solutions together.
Yes.
Are clients having different discussions with AWS around what they think about cloud and the types of services that they need to deploy into their organization?
When I get out of bed in the morning, I think AWS is the company with millions of customers and tens of thousands of partners like yourselves. When I talk to customers, though, I get a very different message back. So we had a conversation with 2 different customers last week, and both of them said to us, we're the storage guys. We've been around as long as cloud has been around, and this is a perception we really need to work on. And we're going to work on it just to enable them so they can make that informed decision about whether the cloud is or is not for them. So that's our mission in AWS Ireland. That's our mission with Accenture in Ireland, to work with the customers, particularly your customers where you've already earned that trust, and go in just and explain to them how the cloud can benefit. So then they can make that choice, and hopefully they'll make that choice, and hopefully we'll work together.
I really want to thank you, Fiona, and you, Mark, for your wonderful insights today. I think it's safe to say it's a really exciting time to be in cloud. And I think AWS and Accenture is a wonderful partnership, and we will together help to transform many of our clients' businesses to adopt cloud. Thank you for watching the Accenture Cloud video series, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.